Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von hinten an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. I'm joined by Joey, and we're going to have a quick episode for you guys as we break down Dortmund's 2-0 win over Augsburg, but we're mainly going to be talking about the long-term implications for the club, because at this point in the season, Joey, what is Borussia Dortmund really playing for?
We are playing for pride of second place, I suppose, which we have in the bag by, I don't know, about 7 or 8 points, I think. We are playing to see some of our young players do brilliant things, which we'll get into. And we're playing to see what the idea is for next season now. I mean, I think that the hierarchy, Niko Kovac, the fans, we've all got to be thinking a little bit, maybe a lot, about next season now, because we're not going to drop out of Champions League qualification. We're not going to win a title this season, but we still have 2 months of the season left. So, I guess
I don't
month and a
know,
half.
Joey. Bayern dropped points.
Oh, now they're only ahead by 9. 9 points with 8 games left.
Yeah, and we're 8 points clear of third, so I don't think Hoffenheim is catching us anytime soon. The most interesting thing for me left in the table is that fourth place spot, because I think, like, as a Dortmund fan, you kind of want the chaos. Like, you want it to be the teams that are currently in the top 4 to be the top 4 going into next season, and for Stuttgart and Hoffenheim to be the ones getting Champions League football, because that would essentially severely limit the financial and commercial growth that Leverkusen had over the last couple of years with Xabi Alonso, and prevent their wage bill from sustaining a high level of growth. And then you want Leipzig to never feel joy again. And this past year, they missed out on any European football, which I think is for the benefit of all German fans, because Leipzig don't really have any. And so those are the things left to root for in the season, from a non-Dortmund perspective. And right now, everything is looking good. Leipzig's hit 3 points adrift in 5th. And Dortmund won, like, very convincingly. Like, this could have been a lot worse for Augsburg. But let's break down the 2 things that most impact next season. Because like we said, this one, it's basically over. We're 8 points clear of third. We're 9 points back. Nothing is changing. We're out of all the cup competitions. But there's 2 things we can talk about. And that's an 18-year-old center back getting the start, playing the full 90. And a little formation tweak. Do you want to start with the center back? Do you want to start with the formation tweak? Where do you want to go from here?
I guess I could talk about both. I mean, I want to heap some praise on Reggiani in a little bit, but the slight formation change was something I was very fond of. And I remember around this stage last season when Dortmund essentially needed that run of consecutive wins just to qualify for Champions League. We saw a similar formation a few times, and that was with Maxi Bayer and Karim Adeyemi up front. And I just think the 2 of them have a pretty good synergy on the field playing together. They're both pretty dynamic, and I think that the 2 of them together offer something in the attack that we just don't see when Serhou Guirassy is part of the front 2. And I think that even with that front 2, like a player like Guirassy is not as dynamic. He's very strong on set pieces. But just for the free flowing attack, Maxi and Karim, I mean, they could have scored more. I mean, I think, Adeyemi had of course, Adeyemi got the first goal, but he had another off the crossbar. Maxi had one off the woodwork. And just the link-up play between them and the midfield was something impressive and allowed us to put pressure on the opposing team in a way that we really have not seen very much this season. I know it was just a 2-0, but as you mentioned, this could have been much worse for Augsburg. And there were a couple phases where I felt like this could have been a 4-0 or a 5-0 game if we had been just a little bit more clinical on the finishes.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
Kareem Adeyemi with 0.77 xG is incredible. Like that's really good. All his shots are from central areas. There are five of them. Two are from like right on the edge of the area, but like really good shot location. Maxi Bayer's total like expected assists and expected goals is only like 0.54 in this match, which isn't incredible, but it's the way he's getting it. Just over half of that is coming through expected assists. Kareem Adeyemi also added 0.39 expected assists, and like that was just a cutback. But Kareem Adeyemi has shown the ability that when he's going to create chances, it's often going to be those very big chances. And that comes from him being so pacey and him being able to get to the byline and play those cutbacks. And that's how he created the chance in this match. And I think, like, how sustainable is that going to be against the biggest clubs in the world? I'm not entirely sure. But it's certainly like an option that we can work with, and we've also seen the two of them alongside Fabio Silva show the ability to put up a decent attacking performance against Bayern, and like we ended up on the losing side in that match. But I don't think that was as much on the front three as it was on some of the midfield stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's very exciting. I want to see Maxi Bayer play the nine. I want to see a third attacker in there, and with this midfield, you don't get that. Like, Build was coming out and saying Felix Nemecha can play the 10. Felix Nemecha cannot play the 10. Felix Nemecha has never shown the ability to play key passes. Like, it's not something that you can say he can do at a high level because he's 25 at this point. He's turning 26 in, I think, October. And he's never done it at the senior level. Like, even the campaign, he had 6 assists at Wolfsburg, which is his career high. Massive overperformance. And a lot of the assists he was getting were off, like, knockdowns on set pieces. Like, that's, like, 2 or 3 of his assists. Like, and even then, 6 is not good enough for a number 10 at Borussia Dortmund. So, like, he can't do it. Carney Chukwuemeka has been very bright, and a lot of that is getting it on the end of chances. It's not necessarily having that creative work, and he's still only on like 1,000 minutes this year. Like, I don't think he can. Like, I don't want to go into next season with him and Inacio as my like options at the 10. So I don't necessarily love the 3-man midfield every match, but it's definitely interesting, and I think that there's definitely room for it, like to have that in the bag, in your bag of tricks against some of these like weaker teams, because you can just break that out, rotate an attacker, and I think like this summer we're definitely going to be signing an attacker with the departure of Julian Brandt. So it's exciting, and like that signing, that attacker, maybe it is a creative passing midfielder, maybe it's a winger. I don't know, but they can definitely find a way to fit another guy into this type of attacking performance. And having like someone was saying like, oh, we don't play with wingers this season. We don't play with the 10 either. We just play with the guys we have, and we don't really have a guy that can get it done at the 10 because Julian Brandt's passing numbers have been a lot worse this year. And Kareem Adeyemi's the only like true winger profile in this one, and even then he's a little bit better playing a little bit more free because he's so fast. You don't want him staying on the touchline because he's a mediocre dribbler, and he's a guy that you want making these really incisive runs into open space, whether it be centrally through the middle or from out wide. But I've talked enough about that. Let's go into the midfield structure a little bit more. Is there anything you want to add there? Like, is Sabitzer going to be back next season, and he's going to be tearing up every game? Like, what do you think? Where do you think we go there?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, you have Sabitzer, Job, and Mecha, and I think having those three players in the central midfield adds a certain stability to the structure, but at the same time, it doesn't do a lot for us in creation. And even though we put a lot of pressure on their box, A lot of that pressure came from Adeyemi and Bayer and came from many of the long balls that were coming up from the defense. Um, I mean, these guys are great at the back passes. Sabitzer, I go back and forth on because at times I find him to be a really talented player, and other times when I watch him play, it just feels like he is. I mean, he is past his prime. He's past his best years, and I'm I guess I'm a little bit worried if the club is planning on relying on him in a role next year. If he does see out, if he doesn't leave, if he sees out his contract, which I believe would expire at the end of next season, I have to imagine he would become maybe a slightly more reliable Ajtan type of player who is on the bench most of the time, but
That's
comes
already
in
who he
when
is this year.
it is. You're right. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I was a little bit optimistic at the end of last season because I do feel like he started to get a little bit of that form back from the previous campaign when we made the Champions League final. Um, but I'm just not really convinced by him right now and within this system. So I mean, it really does feel like there's a lot that Niko Kovac has done well to create stability in the structure and the side. And I mean, we do have the most clean sheets in the league, and I mean, some of that is thanks to Kobel. Some of that is thanks to a formation that cuts down on the number of shots that Kobel has to deal with. Um, but when we're in situations against clubs where we need to be more dominant, I have to imagine that we're going to be looking for another attacking player or couple of attacking players because we have a couple strikers. I mean, we have several players who can play as part of the front two. We don't really have anyone except maybe Cole Campbell, who is a traditional winger.
Hoffenheim have
Um,
an option to buy too, so
and well, I mean, I don't know how many minutes he's getting there right now, but
I
it
don't think
just
he's
feels
debuted.
like whether a strong winger, and I'm not talking about Sancho, like a a strong winger, a new 10, which doesn't seem to be the priority, but like somebody else who is very attacking minded, who can come in and be a regular strike or a regular starter. And I do think that Chukwuemeko offers a bit of dynamism up front as part of an attacking formation. But as you mentioned, we what we've seen from him has more had to do with like getting on the end of chances as opposed to creating a lot of chances. And with the number of minutes he plays, I also question if if he is the player who is going to have a breakout season and start starting regularly. Um, and I'm just not sure. I mean, I guess he was just on loan last season, but I kept thinking at some point this season we were really going to see Carney break out of the bench and become a reliable starting player for us. I kind of thought that in some ways he was going to become the more reliable starter and Brandt was going to become his backup. Um, but it seems like Carney is just more of a backup. So whether that comes down to his ability to stay fit or just his consistency, I'm not sure. But I do think that we're really going to need to bring in. I mean, I mean, attacking, midfield, defense, every main section of our squad is going to need bolstering in the summer. Just be interesting to see who we pursue and who we can sign, and if Schlotterbeck stays.
Yeah, Carney Chukwuemeka's now at 900 minutes in all comps, so he's actually no, he is at 1,000. He's just under 1,000 minutes in all competitions this year, which is about triple what he did last year. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
huge jump. Like just having those minutes, next year, like you can start to expect maybe 1,500, and the amount of starts for Carney Chukwuemeka going from, let's see how many it is this year, real quick.
I'm gonna guess
In
9.
the league, he has 6. In the Champions League, he has 1, and in the DFB Pokal, he has 1. So you're one
I was
high.
off by 1.
Yeah. So like next year from Carney Chukwuemeka, I think you can expect the amount of starts to double. Like if you can get this guy to be starting half his matches, that's great. That's a huge
Hmm.
win with 2 years left on his contract. Um, like maybe you talk about renewals in January at that point. Um, like I think you're winning with Carney Chukwuemeka. I think the idea that he was ever gonna become a locked in starter this year was so premature. Just because he played 280 league minutes for Borussia Dortmund the previous year.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot on that loan spell, but I think there's also a certain expectation that came with his price tag and what we paid for him, thinking, of course, I've said this on the pod before, in that like I want to not pay 30 million for players who are going to spend more time on the bench. And you could say the same thing about like Jan Kuto too, where it's a pretty substantial fee that we pay for a player, and I just, for that kind of price, I want the player to have more of an impact. And I mean, from some of like the Dortmund me, especially a couple of English friends, have just praised Chukwuemeka. They think if this guy can stay fit, he's going to be a generational talent. Of course, they're probably not thrilled with the fact that he's now an Austrian player instead of an Englishman, but he's got to come good on that. And I think we've seen flashes of this really strong technical ability. Um, is he going to become a reliable starter for Dortmund? Maybe. I mean, I think what you said a few minutes ago is spot on. That if he can be starting half the games, then I think we'll be pretty happy with that.
I don't need him to start half the games. I just need him to start half his appearances. Like the appearance
Hmm.
number for
Yeah.
him has never been the issue. And the minutes per appearance this year has gone up considerably. And he's done that while producing more expected goals, more expected assists.
Hmm.
It's not a great number for a 10, but it's a fantastic number for an 8, even off the bench. Because it's a little under like half a goal and assists per 90. Um, and this guy, like, to compare him to Jan Koto, we gave Jan Koto a 5 year contract, and Jan Koto joined around the age that Carney Chukwuemeka is right now. Like, when Jan Koto joined Borussia Dortmund last year, he was 22. He's about to turn 24 in June. So, Carney Chukwuemeka is 22 right now. So, like, you gotta think, like, he's turning 23 in October. You're essentially going to start seeing the peak of his career. And
The
if
next
he
few
can,
years.
yeah, and if he can start like half his, if he can give you double digit, like 15 starts next year, I'm happy with that. Because we talked about like he's at 6 starts right now. If you can get me to 15, Carney, I'm happy next year. Because if you're just keeping this level of performance while starting more, that's a win, and that's him essentially returning the value on that deal. Whereas
Hmm.
Jan Koto starting his deal at 2 years older, it's already underwater because you have this guy for another 4 years, and his fee was about 4 million euros higher. If you count the loan fee, and granted, you get Jan Koto for more years, but that's not more years you want because he's not performed.
And I think that's the tough thing for me with Jan Kuto is like the first season. I mean, like a lot of players, I think it takes them a season to really find their footing at a new club. It's Bundesliga is very different from La Liga. I mean, even Job, I think, was a bit underwhelming in the first half of the season, and I really think his consistency has improved in the second half. Um, I thoroughly, like, full-heartedly expect Job to just keep improving next season. And I think I had that same expectation with Jan Kuto this year, and we just haven't quite seen that matriculate. Like, we haven't seen that develop the way that I think a lot of us were hoping. I mean, he does have some pace as a wing back, but unfortunately, I think he gets wrestled off the ball a bit too easy or too easily, and I think we just need to see a bit more consistency from him. Otherwise, I I wouldn't be surprised if Dortmund ends up trying to offload him this summer or within the next couple of windows, rather than seeing out 3 more years of his contract. But maybe the player will prove me wrong.
Yeah,
Sorry, Pedro.
it's interesting because if you look at Jan Koto's first season at Borussia Dortmund, it's about 900 minutes in the league, and this year he's only gotten up to 990. He has 1 goal and 2 assists, but from 3 expected. Like that's still not great when you're a defensive zero. Like that's just not good enough. And if we see Carney Chukwuemeka not take the steps forward that he has, then you start to say the same things about him that you do about Jan Koto, because being at about like 3 goal contributions, 4 goal contributions in about 1,000 minutes. A lot of those off the bench is not good enough when you're defensively nothing. Like Carney Chukwuemeka is giving you defensively more, and he's a guy that's has about as many expected goal contributions in 300 less minutes, while not being a liability.
Yeah.
But let's go quickly to a quote from Valdemar Anton about this match. He said, "We wanted to show our dominance and were in control for the full 90 minutes, which was very, very important. And we started the second half well, something that hasn't always gone so smoothly in recent matches. Luka put in a good performance. I always start with his defending because at the end of the day, he's a defender. He did that very well without any mistakes. The goal was the icing on the cake. I'm glad he scored his first goal." I don't want to talk too much about Luka because we have a whole segment to talk about Luka. But how do
Yeah,
you
I mean,
think?
in the first half of the quote at least, I mean, this is one of those typical Dortmund matches where I kept thinking if we don't score a second goal before halftime, we're going to really regret that in the second half. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, and the team came out just as dominant as they were in the first half, and Reggiani sealed the deal with that second goal. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, I do think that this could have been a far greater result. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the overall team performance. Think it was dominant, and it's not very often that we get to say that about a Borussia Dortmund outing.
Yeah, and also a fun thing. Now I'll save that. But let's go quickly to a quote from Luca Reggiani. "Crazy, I could not believe it when the ball went in. I can't describe the feeling. It was really, really amazing. 1 month ago I had my debut, then Champions League, now my first goal. I'm very happy about what is happening. Thanks to the club." And that's a great quote from my star of the week, Luca Reggiani. And I could talk about the goal. I could talk about, like, he doesn't really put a foot wrong as a defender. And if you're going to be like an 18-year-old defender and I can start you as Borussia Dortmund against like a mid-table team, because I blinked and somehow Augsburg went from the relegation zone, where I would have liked to see them, up into mid-table. You're
I
a great young 18-year-old. Like, that's the ideal thing you want to see coming out of your academy. But what I want to talk about most with this guy is you look at all his misplaced passes, all his inaccurate passes, they're all going forward. They're all forward. Like, he's
yeah.
trying to play the passes you want to see. And this isn't to say he didn't complete any like long range forward passes. He did. Not a high percentage of them, but like he's attempting them. And you know what? At his age, at this point in the season, where we are with what our goals are, like let him attempt them. That's what we need to see. That's a big win, and it's empowering to have a coach in Nico Kovac who's letting such a young player do that.
Yeah, I full-heartedly agree with all of that. And I mean, in addition to attempting long balls and sending progressive passes, some of which he did miss, and that hurts his, I suppose, his overall passing stat. But it's not padded like a lot of guys who primarily just make passes are. Um, but his defensive stats were also fairly impressive. I think he won both aerial duels. I think he won a couple tackles at important spots. And it's hard for me to choose anybody else for my star of the week right now too. I mean, I thought Adeyemi had a good game.
I mean, I
But
feel like that's the
Reggiani,
obvious choice for you, but you could just
oh,
double
I mean,
up.
I do love Kareem, um, but I have to give it to Reggiani for this one because he's a young player who has been handed a golden opportunity and he's seizing it. And I think as fans, it's been too long since we've seen an academy player be really successful in the first team. And I mean, I even think about how exciting it was seeing Tom Rotha score a couple years ago and thinking, oh, he's going to be one of the future stars of this club. And then that kind of fizzled out. So I think there's a little bit of hope that I certainly feel watching Reggiani because he's a solid performer for like being barely 18. And I think this goal made him the youngest ever Italian to score in the Bundesliga, which is also pretty cool.
It's a
Um,
silly stat in my opinion, but it's fun.
silly, silly, but if you're an Italian, I think you'd probably be thinking that's pretty cool.
I mean,
Um,
how many Italian like kids are like good and not developing in Italy where they have a lot of Italian players is more my thing.
that's
But
fair. I don't know. We can ask Inacio about his time at the Atalanta Academy. Um,
um,
but yeah, I don't have too much more to add on Reggiani. Just was really impressed by him again, um, and I feel like he's showing a bit of consistency, and really happy with Niko Kovac for putting some faith in him there.
yeah, and Inacio, well, we can ask him once he breaks the record.
Yep,
But do you have a dud of the week?
I
I
do.
do.
I don't think I don't think anybody was necessarily like atrocious, but I do have a dud, and that is Felix Mecha. Um,
Oh, that's different from mine.
and that partially has to do with his new contract because in my head I'm like, you're gonna sign a contract extension and become one of this club's top earners, and then you're gonna give us a lackadaisical performance on the weekend like that. I'm like, come on, dude. I mean, if there was one player on the pitch who just like looked like they weren't trying that hard, it was Felix Mecha. And I had a was at a watch party for this match over the weekend, and the comments were all kind of the same about Mecha, and that he got some good physicality. He makes some very promising runs from time to time, but then he just like looks like he doesn't pay attention, and then he's caught scrambling for a pass, or he makes a no look pass to nobody. And yeah, I just when you sign a new contract, I want to see you come out and give us a world class performance, and that was not that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
that's enough on Mecha.
this is like the type of game I would more or less expect from Felix the Matcha, so it's hard for me to be like super negative. Like, um, he had a decent amount of passes at 52. He got fouled once. He lost the ball a couple times. He won his only dribble. Like that's more or less what I expect from him. The passing
Fair.
wasn't great. It's pretty easy for a Borussia Dortmund level player to complete forward passes against an Augsburg side, but one player that I felt it was pretty hard for was Marcel Sabitzer.
That's fair too.
We're talking about a midfield three. Joe Bellingham setting the standard, your number 6, 74 passes attempted, 94% pass completion. Felix Nemecha at like 88% pass completion, 50 passes attempted. Marcel Sabitzer over under passes, I'm going to say 35. Actually, no, I'm going to say 30. Joey, over under passes at 30 for Marcel Sabitzer in this match. He's looking to the side
Passes
to try and
completed.
look it up.
No, I
No,
was
no,
looking
no,
out the window.
just passes in
Passes overall.
general.
I'm gonna go with over, but not by a lot.
Oh, well, you'd be wrong because he was under.
Was it like 26 or something?
Yeah, he attempted 27 passes of which he completed just 20. And if you look at Joe Bellingham and Felix Nemecha, the passes they didn't complete were basically all forward passes. If you look at Marcel Sabitzer, he failed on 2 sideways passes outside of the box, and he failed another backwards pass in the middle of the field. And that's the worst
The
place to have the ball get
I
intercepted. It's unacceptable. It's not good
I
enough.
suppose the one defense I would have for Sabitzer is that when you already have a double pivot of Job and Mecha, like where Sabitzer doesn't fit into that system. Like he doesn't fit into the
But
squad
like,
properly.
then go stand above the box and shoot from
Oh, for
distance.
sure, for
That's
sure.
something he's shown an ability to do. Like, he's a good ball striker. How many shots did he have in this match? 0.
I don't
He
think it
wasn't
any. Yeah,
contributing in build-up. How does he not have energy to take a pot shot? Um,
yeah, I'm not sure.
the carries, not very far. The total progression on carries, negative. Um, like, he's just on the pitch to like run up and down, I guess. Like, defensively, he's fine. Like,
Probably
se-
used.
paying this guy 7.5 mil to just run up and down the pitch, and like,
It's
you
more
need, like,
about.
this isn't a criticism to say he's crap. Like, he's a Bundesliga level player, but like, this transfer, from the moment we signed him, it really just annoyed me because I knew it was gonna go this way, where he's like, he's not a bad player, but he's just not good enough for Borussia Dortmund, and he's paid a lot of money,
No,
and
for
you
a
need to
4 year
find a way
deal
to get him off the books because it's a negative. He's a negative, like, on field asset.
for his profile, a 4 year deal was not. I mean, that was not great. I mean, I when we signed him, I think there was a role for a player like him to play at the time, but I would have liked to see this be a have been a 2 year deal where we could have let him go on his merry way, or I don't know, because right now, if we let him see out his contract or if we sell him, I mean, I can't imagine. I don't think Savitzer's going to go for more than 10 million. It would be like a 6 or 8 million, and it would be more about getting his wages off the books than trying to make a profit on selling
Yeah,
him with
but
the year left on his contract.
you make so much money as Borussia Dortmund in commercial deals from other transfers, from the Champions League, that if you get the money off the books, that's just so much flexibility. That's
It
so
certainly
much
is.
flexibility. Because, like, the risk of a Nico Schlotterbeck, like, massive contract and, like, just completely shattering your wage structure for Nico Schlotterbeck is like he does his ACL again. Like,
Hmm.
that's your risk. Whereas if you're risking to play Marcel Sabitzer again next year, it's that you, like, he continues to physically decline and he can't even provide rotation next year. Like, that is a possibility.
It
I
is,
don't
yeah.
think he'll be that bad, but like, you don't want to give him minutes because you want to give minutes to someone who can help you win a title, and Marcel Sabitzer is not at that level. Like, your hope for Marcel Sabitzer next year, if you're Borussia Dortmund, if you have to keep him, your hope is essentially that he can come into matches against the bottom 6 teams and, like, not cost you the game.
Hmm.
And that's not good enough.
And I also,
Wouldn't you rather, like, see
yeah,
if, like, Kiel Watkins that guy, or like take a 10 million euro gamble on some 21
I
to
would.
23-year-old midfielder who you think has potential?
At that point, I would, because I mean, Reggiani is very promising. I think Inacio, assuming he gets his debut before the end of the season, I think that's another really promising youth player. I would I would much rather kind of like invest in those kinds of players than, I don't know. Because the other thing with Sabitzer, I think this is maybe part of the transfer that bothered me more and has bothered me with a couple, is that, yeah, he went. I mean, he probably played some of his best football in Leipzig, and then he went to Bayern, and then he kind of became a Bayern outcast, and it's like they didn't want him anymore. And then he went to Manchester United, and that's always a dumpster fire. So it's almost like, we took the Bayern reject. He gave us one decent season, and we signed him for 4 years.
The way people
And
talk about Switzer, though, is so skewed by the fact he got like 7 assists in one Champions League game from 1.3 expected. If it's like an XG over performance, you can say, like, oh, he got hot and like it's his talent. He had a good finishing stretch, and that would be the case. Or if you like win a title off those assists, it'd be cool. But like at the end of the day, he didn't create chances, and people just think he did
Mhm.
because every time he passed someone the ball, they scored. Like he didn't actually play well. It's not like the weight of his passes is so perfect, and it's like not captured by the stats because the weight of the pass quite literally is captured by the XG
no,
expected assist stat. Like
but in
it
terms of
was literally
the
just a fluke.
but in terms of the outcomes, he did make an impact in that sense. Kind of like like last year, it was hard to criticize Girassi so much for just playing generally atrocious when he would touch the ball and it would go to the back of the net. Where it's like his playing wasn't good, but he was doing things that made
Yeah,
him a
but like
very good player.
Gur-
But then
Gurasi
look at
last
that
year,
stretch
what his
this
performance
season.
wasn't a fluke. Like it wasn't a fluke that he was putting the ball in the back of the net because he was getting on chances. Marcel
Mhm.
Sabitzer was relying on other people to score the passes he gave them instead of the passes someone else gave them. Like it wasn't down to his quality. Like when Gurasi was scoring, it was like a sustainable process. When Marcel Sabitzer was assisting in that one Champions League campaign, it was literally just a fluke.
I I don't know. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I feel like we can agree to disagree on this one because we're
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about the his first season as opposed to last season and this season, which he
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
given us much of anything. And I think his last goal was the final match day of the Bundesliga last season, and I think that was his only goal last season. So he really has not been giving us much the last couple of years. And I mean, to one of your other points, it's hard to imagine he's going to give us a lot moving forward.
Yeah.
Should we keep him for another year?
Yeah, sorry. I that rhetoric around his first campaign just enrages me as a stats nerd.
All good.
Um, but let's move on. We have a match preview as Dortmund play Hamburg. Dortmund have only lost against Bayern in the Bundesliga since January 13th, with draws against Frankfurt and Leipzig. In their last 6 games, Hamburg have won twice against Wolfsburg and Union, and they have drawn and lost 2 matches each. Do you have some score predictions here? Anything to?
I do. If memory serves me, then I think it was a 1-1 draw against Hamburg in the first half of the season. I think it was one of those where we really should have won that game, but allowed Hamburg a last minute winner. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe we found the equalizer in the stoppage time.
Nope, it was
Either
Königsdorfer, I believe.
yep. All right. So, I mean, given the way that Dortmund has been playing in the league recently, especially since the turn of the year, I do expect a win here. I'm really hoping to see more from Reggiani. I'm hoping to maybe see somebody like Inacio play as well. Um, a little hard to predict what Kovac is going to try because he may try something different or play different players because, as we mentioned, there's not really anything to play for. But I still expect we're going to win. I'm going to give my prediction as a. I'm going to go with 3-0. I think
Okay,
it's be
yeah,
3 0.
this is a home match against a team that has a very distinct drop off, home versus away, and so you're getting them away. You should have a massive advantage. Being at home against a team that performs very poorly away. So I'll agree with you, and I'll say 4-1. And I'm just quickly gonna throw out the changes I want to see in the starting 11. So I want to see um Kareem Adeyemi and Maxi Bayer start up top again,
Hmm.
and I want to see a midfield. I kind of want to see Nemecha get rested. So I wouldn't mind a Carney Chukwuemeka, Joe Bellingham double pivot with
I'd
Fabio
like to see
Silva
that.
playing and him playing out wide or like underneath Maxi Bayer, playing almost as like a second striker slash 10. With Kareem Adeyemi still staying pretty flexible. And then I think I want to see Reggiani at right center back again. Pretty obvious one there. But that's it for me. That's anything you would change from that?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, I do think I'd like to see more from Chukwuemeka.
Mhm.
I have liked a lot of what we've seen from Silva so far, but I'm not necessarily convinced his best position is as a number nine, even though he is a striker.
Yeah, I
I
was
mean
saying
the
play him
yeah, say
like as
the
the one who's off the left or underneath,
like
and let Maxi Byers stay at the nine.
yeah, like as a winger or false nine, I think he could be really dangerous, and maybe that's something that Kovac just needs to figure out how to unlock in Silva, because he has gotten quite a few assists, but I think he's only gotten the one league goal so far. But I don't
Yeah,
know, and I think I think Silva's gonna be around for the foreseeable future, so it would be good to see what kind of roles he might play next season.
yeah. Fabio Silva's another guy who's overperform. Like his expected assist numbers are still good, but he's underperforming his expected goals and he's overperforming his expected assists. Um, the expected goals, like the sample size is so small that it's like he could score one shot in the
hmm
next game and he'd be back. That's what
I
happens when you don't
also
play a ton of minutes. But
I also just want to see like more starts from Silva and see how he
yeah,
performs from the first whistle.
yeah, I'd love to see that. And I also think if you one of the reasons I said like you play the front three is because that makes it easier for you to sub on Inacio, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
I could see
let's
that.
move on because we have some other news this weekend. Borussia Dortmund. I want to start off with the women's news because we have some great news,
Oh,
guys.
yes, yes. This is
Dude,
really
this
good
is
news.
childhood
I have
Borussia
to do a
Dortmund
double
fan
take.
coming
Oh,
in,
yeah.
80,000 fans greeting her. That's incredible. It's Alex
Amazing.
Pop. Genuinely incredible. And I'd already seen we signed like the Wolfsburg coach. And Wolfsburg, their men's team is crap, but their women's team is
Their
the
women's
second
team's
best team in
really
Germany.
good.
Second best team in Germany. Even at times, they've been the best team. They've definitely won the Champions League.
I
They've won some
mean,
league titles, and we poached their coach to come to the second tier next year, assuming we get promoted this year.
yeah, I mean we're in the
And we
third tier right
signed
now.
Alex Pop. Alex Pop has definitely seen better days in terms of like her career. She is 34, but this is still a player who can play at the top level just because the women's game has lacked a bit of infrastructure over time.
hmm
Um and like it's starting to catch up in terms of infrastructure, but that lack of infrastructure has led to less women soccer players being able to go professional. And so you see these players having careers that just last a lot longer, which is what you used to see in men's football. And so I firmly believe that Alex Pop can certainly dominate the second tier for Borussia Dortmund next year and hopefully expeditiously get us into the top flight because I need to see a Borussia Dortmund women's match and we haven't been able to watch them because they don't televise them here.
And just to praise Alexandra Pop a little bit as well. I mean, this is one of the most decorated women's footballers
Absolutely.
in I don't know of all time. Maybe I mean she's been German Footballer of the Year 3 times, most recently being 2023, and she also was the captain of the German national team from 2019 to 2024. She's also Germany's number three all-time goal scorer in international competitions. I mean, she's won just about everything with club and country, and the fact that she's coming to now play for third tier Dortmund, even at 34, she's going to bring such great experience, and I mean the head on her shoulders, even just for the locker room. I mean, if you want to talk about winning mentality, bring a player like this into your locker room, and it'll happen.
Yeah, and the
Huge
squad,
news.
the Dortmund women's squad is so young that you're getting all these high potential players. They're just gonna like absorb the professionalism and start to learn what it takes to get to the level that Pop did. Like that's just such a good influence,
hmm
and I'm sure like that she's gonna come in, she's gonna work with the like some of the U19 players and all this, and that's just gonna set us up for success for a decade.
Oh
hopefully, if
yeah.
not longer. Like, um, and
That's
also
kind of
just
player.
commercially for the women's team, like their attendance is really good. It's more than some NWSL clubs in the US. It's great. I
And Dortmund
recorded a
has
video.
big plans
Sorry.
for the women's team. So Dortmund has
Yeah.
big plans for the women's team. I mean, it was a long time coming getting the women's team organized, and Dortmund being such a big club for the from the men's side, they have big plans to get their women's club or the women's team to the same size and the same influence as the men's team. So to get this team to a place where they can compete for the women's Bundesliga title, and um, I mean it's a team on the rise. So give it a couple more seasons and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. You know what else I'd like to see next year, Joey? I'd like to see some BVB Frauen matches
That'd be
in the
great.
Westfalenstadion. Like, move them over. Like, make the tickets a lot cheaper. Obviously, they're pulling like 12K in the Rote Erde. Like,
Hmm.
we can't get a
I
match
mean,
where it's like 60, 80.
say
Like, I
if they're
hope 80.
regularly selling out the Rote Erde, then I don't see why the women shouldn't be moved over to the Westfalenstadion. Why not?
Yeah,
Even if
like
it's not sold out at
it
first, it'll take some time.
yeah, and also like you can just make the match free, um,
Mhm.
and sell so many beers and everything that
Oh yeah,
you'll pay for it. There's
jerseys,
so many people. Like
scarves.
it's so difficult to get tickets to an actual Dortmund game. That I think it would be a great opportunity to allow
Mhm.
people to make a trip out to the Westfalenstadion. I did not get to watch the women's team when I was there, which was a little unfortunate. I was almost trying to do the triumvirate with the U19s, but I think they played away the weekend I was there.
Ah,
But I did catch the second team, so I did get to see a match at the Rote Erde.
nice.
Um, but I already spoke about Julian Brandt on a TikTok, YouTube short. You can find those on those platforms as well as Instagram Reels. But do you have any thoughts about Julian Brandt leaving that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I'm just a bit disappointed by this one. I mean, it sounds like it was maybe a separation by mutual agreement that the Brant won't get a contract extension. I think one part of why I'm disappointed is one because Brant has still been playing a significant role this season. That's the first part, and the second part is that Julian Brent is at this point our senior most player, playing here on his seventh season, which feels a little crazy that 7 years ago the squad was 100% different. And I think that over the last decade, Borussia Dortmund as a whole has just had a little bit too much turnover with players, with coaches, that there hasn't been like we need to build something. And having players stay like Marco Royce, who's there for a really long time, who's a constant influence on the club, players like that sort of silently send a message to prospective future players to see Dortmund as potentially a place that they can build their career at. And as much as I can appreciate how Borussia Dortmund has been a stepping stone for players like Erling Haaland, Jude Bellingham, Christian Pulisic, I also want Borussia Dortmund to be the kind of club that players want to play at for a long time, like a club that players want to win trophies at and believe they can win trophies at. And I think not having very many players stick around more than 3 4 years really hinders the long-term growth of the club. So I mean, overall, I'm disappointed by this one. I really wish Brant the best, and I hope that wherever he ends up, he's successful there. And got to thank him for his 15 plus goals and assists per season for 7 seasons.
Yeah, it's about 120 goals and assists in all comps for him.
That's
But
consistent
let's
too.
yeah, let's hear a quick quote from Kjell. What in who is open to staying at Bochum, saying, "What will happen this summer doesn't concern me at all right now. I'm focused on my current goal. I'm fighting to regain a starting spot. I don't care about what's going on at BVB. Now I feel good again. I've recharged my batteries and I'm ready. I can imagine staying at VfL Bochum after the summer, but nothing's decided yet, including on Dortmund's side. In the end, it's BVB that has the final say. We'll see." So I've talked about it, like Kjell Watjen lost his starting place, and deservedly so. He wasn't lighting it up at right wing, and they kind of have a solid academy double pivot of their own that they have to develop. So they're not obligated to play him in his best position. And like, does that mean Kjell Watjen's Dortmund future is over? Not necessarily, but I'm kind of hoping that they bring him back and figure that out in preseason because he's got to prove it at some point. And like, if you would think that a player who's good enough for Borussia Dortmund would be so undeniable that they'd be finding a way to start for Bochum, whether that's in their double pivot or elsewhere, just because like it's Bochum, guys. It's the second Bundesliga.
Yeah, and this one's a little tough too because if it is an academy prospect who's displaced him, then Bochum could see that academy prospect as their more long-term solution. If they don't have a plan to keep Vatjen beyond this season, then I mean I think the logical thing is that Vatjen comes back and trains with Dortmund this summer, and the hierarchy there between Kovac and Kiel and whoever else is involved there, Rick, and we're going to kind of have to make a decision on whether we see this player as someone who can develop into part of the squad, or if this is someone that we should permanently offload for like a 6 or 8 or 10 million sum to a lower tier Bundesliga side. I I don't feel like I have seen enough of Bochum or of Vatjen this season to really like make too much of a judgment. I've watched some highlights here and there, but I have not watched a full Bochum match or a full 90 minutes from Kiel Vatjen since I don't know, since probably last season. So I'm not quite sure where his development is, and I want to say he was struggling with an injury for a little while this season, but I think that's past him now.
Yeah, he had some minor knocks, nothing like too severe, but it's only 1,000 minutes, 50 minutes per appearance, because half of his appearances are coming as starts. His XG is not terrible at 2.62, like for a guy that's a true midfielder and is not necessarily excelled at his movement in the box. Like that's not bad. But he has underperformed that, which is a big reason he's not playing. Because if that one goal was three, that'd be a whole different story. Bochum are also fairly mid-table, so like you gotta take that into account with numbers. But it's not been what you would like to see for him progressing into the first 11 at Borussia Dortmund.
Mhm.
But like we did see when he was here that he was just a guy that was like able to get in the right places. So I'd like to see him get given a chance in preseason and then you make the decision. I don't think you're in such a rush. Like I think the interest will be there in the mid to upper single digit million euros. He's still only 20 years old. Um so that's where I am with him. We were also linked with an 18-year-old defender at Mainz. That's Kasper Potolski. He's a left-footed center back, I believe. This is from a Polish source. The name, I would imagine the player's Polish, so it should have some reliability there, at least coming from his agent. But
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't. It's hard to speculate on the center back situation without yet knowing if Schlotterbeck is extending. I mean, I think that's going to be. I think that is going to be a major deciding factor in how strongly this club pursues new center backs this summer. Um, I don't know. Hopefully, even if Schlotterbeck extends, we still need another center back. With Niklas Zula leaving, with Emre Can injured,
Maybe
and
leaving.
likely getting a new contract anyway. but I think we're going to need a new center back either way. And I I don't know enough about Patulski, but as an 18-year-old, I at least like that he's got his best years ahead of him.
Yeah, it's not a ton of minutes either, but we also have Felix Mecha. I did a video on his contract extension. You already talked about it a little. Is there
Yep.
anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think I said my piece on Mecha, and hopefully he is consistent next season. And I mean, I guess the one other thing to add about Nemecha's extension is I believe that starting next summer he will have a release clause for somewhere in the range of 70 million that could be
I think it's
activated by
80 and then falling
drops to 70.
70 the next year. Yeah.
So if he gives us a positive season next year, then I think I would hope that a Premier League club or somebody would come in to poach him or buy him up, and we can reinvest that money.
Yeah. Anyway, we have our Fantasy Bundesliga update. This is our Fantasy Bundesliga League, and you guys compete in it. So we'll shout out our top 5. And should I do a top 6 this week, Joey? My friend was in 6th, so.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you were in 6th, so.
No. I've been struggling the last couple weeks. I'll be honest.
Why not? We can shout out top
I'll give her
6.
the shout out. So my dear friend Clea in 6th. With Sco BVB. And then we have KKP BG in 5th, Red Munich in 4th, Arenas United in 3rd, and Notorious in 2nd, with the usual name returning to the top spot, and that's Supercalifragilistic. So that's your top 5 for this week.
You guys got to knock Red Munich out of the top 5.
Well, it's every week you gotta get outperform him.
You got to keep him out of the top 5. Come on, Pansabayer.
Yeah, he had a rough one.
Oof.
Pansabayer. But yeah, we actually do have to knock him back out of 5th. He snuck back into the 5th spot, Red Munich. But you can subscribe, follow us everywhere you get your podcasts, join the league in Fantasy Bundesliga. What else is there? We had a lot of Instagram Reels, TikToks coming out this week, so catch up on those. Like and subscribe on those platforms. We really appreciate your support, but that'll do it for us. Have a good one.